Do it. Do it! You goddamn liar! Do it.
Alright, good morning, afternoon, and evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dalfray, and welcome to my review of Days Gone. Days Gone is an open-world action-adventure survival horror game that's set in Oregon, and it features protagonist Deacon St. John. And I'm just going to say right now, this is probably one of the most underrated games I've played. Everything from soundtrack to gameplay to story, all of it feels wonderful. Now, of course, there are a few gripes about the game, which I'll get into later, but there are also many more positives that I feel like outweigh the cons. Now, I'm just going to say right now, this game to me feels like a lot like The Last of Us. It feels like a open world The Last of Us meets World War Z, and it feels great. Now, there are two things you can do when you start off. There's a main story, and then they have a whole separate thing, which is like challenges. It has like survival mode. They have an endless mode where you go up like against a big old endless horde. They have bike races. They have a survivor pickup challenges where you have to pick up a survivor and drop them off locations. They have ambush camps. They have a bunch of other things, and I didn't get to really mess around with it too much, but it looked interesting. Now, when you start off the game, you have, of course, your different difficulty modes. You have easy to survival 2. Now, when you choose survival and survival 2, it drastically changes the way the game plays. It changes the pacing. It changes the difficulty, of course, because it removes the HUD, at least majority of the HUD, and fast traveling. I'm gonna get into that a little bit later. But starting off the game, one of the functions you have is tracking. Now, we've seen this in things like Assassin's Creed, where you're able to see footprints and then you track them to the locations. You also, of course, have your main menu, where you can use your touchpad to swipe where you want to go. You have your map, you have your skill trees, you have your inventory, and you have your quest lines. Now, what's interesting about this game is it has multiple storylines. So, for example, you have storylines all relating to taking out ambush camps, storylines relating to taking out hordes, or storylines relating to this character, and so forth. And I found that really interesting about this game, and I thought it was really cool. It's sometimes the missions do feel like they prolong a little bit, but I mean it's serviceable. You also have your skill tree, of course, which has 3 different skill tree areas. You have your melee, range, and survival, which focus on different areas for Deacon to improve on, such as slowing down time when you're aiming, or picking up more meat when you kill animals, etc. Personally, I feel like at the beginning of the game, it's more towards building how you want to play, but as the game fleshes out, I mean, everybody goes towards it becomes it doesn't really feel like an RPG in a way towards the end of the game, because everybody already has the skills unlocked. More so at the beginning of the game, because you could branch out what you want. But I'm just gonna leave that at that. Now, you also have like a locker you can find at various locations and safe areas where you could choose your weapons. And you also have various items around these locations to help you restock, resupply, such as ammo, resources, gasoline, anything else like that. And I found a nice little breather to be able to take a break and be able to plan out what you want to do next in the game. Now, the next thing I want to talk about are the visuals. The visuals for this game are absolutely amazing. It's some of the best I've ever seen. I believe the game runs on Unreal Engine 4. Mistake me if I'm wrong. But there are a few things I could fix on or touch up, but I'll touch on that later. But I really found it beautiful to be able to go through this game with different weather effects, such as snow, fog, rain, and a bunch of other really nice looking places, especially high up. We're able to climb towers or mountains and able to look down upon the city and see the various settlements and the locations. And it really was some of the best parts about the game, in my opinion. I'm really a sucker for to be able to climb really high places in any game, to be able to look down upon the map. And I really liked that they didn't shy away from any of the textures. You can see everything in the distance, which I really appreciated. You can even see things such as helicopters. You can see other things such as crows or any other monsters you're able to use with your scope, and I found it to be a really cool detail. And there are a few things they do in this game that I found really cool too, such as when you're driving in snow, your jacket starts to be covered in snow, and you do leave little trail marks. You would also leave traces in the snow. when you're walking on mud or when you're walking through the snow, which I found really cool. But there are also a few things like you can see right now, like I'm rolling, but it's not leaving a little trail of snow behind or not getting on your jacket, or just little things like that. Now, getting into the bugs of this game, there were quite a few, and some of them were kind of annoying, such as this one. This one right here, someone was supposed to spawn, and I was supposed to chase him with my motorcycle, but they didn't spawn, and it took me about 40 minutes, and I had to restart the game in order to get that mission running. There's also a few just various visual bugs, like when people die, they stay in these weird positions, and it looks goofy. I'm not gonna lie, but I mean it's just things like that they could touch up on. There's also other instances where people would just start freaking out, or they wouldn't come along with you and it would prohibit the mission a little bit. Luckily, I never came across too many bugs like that, but this is one example where it could have started going wrong. I already had to restart, but luckily he did, I guess, teleport and it continued the mission, which, like I said, it's just a few more touch-ups. This isn't a bug, but this is something I found annoying with the menu. When I'm trying to switch around to my weapons, it didn't. For some reason, the way the menu's made, it's very easy to not be able to get like the little items in the corner, which I found very annoying, and it messed me up a lot of times. And it's just like I said, there's a few bugs they gotta fix to make the game just feel more polished. I also felt like the enemies could have been a little bit more reactive to things. Like right here, I threw a Molotov at enemies, and I was trying to sneak around, and it didn't really react to it, which I found kind of annoying as well. Usually enemies don't really react to anything unless they're getting shot or hit, so I felt like they could have touched up on that a bit more. Hopefully the next Days Gone, they can maybe make the AI more reactive and feel more alive like they did in Last of Us 2, so that way we'll be able to make the game feel more immersive. Now, the main attraction to this game, in my opinion, are the hordes. The hordes in this game are some of the best and some of the funnest things to take on in any game. Sometimes you could just be walking around minding your own business and all of a sudden comes like 100 to 200 size horde or zombie horde, and they'll just surprise you, or you just have to go on a mission or do what you ever got to do, and you fight like a horde as small as 50, which is very rare, but usually they're up to like 100 and 200, sometimes even 300 at average, but the biggest ones can get up to like 500, and I found it to be absolutely amazing, especially for an open world game with many ways to take them out. I haven't really experimented with how fast you can take out hordes or different ways to take them out. I usually take them on head on, but there are different ways you could utilize them, which I found really cool, such as you can lure the big hordes towards other big enemies to take them out and have them fight each other, and maybe just at least reduce the size of the horde, or just take out like the big enemy altogether and collect the rewards from taking it out. Or, which is my personal favorite, you could take the hordes to enemy camps so you could have them wipe them out for you, which I found really cool. I'm pretty sure there's probably other ways you could utilize hordes that I don't know of, but these are just some of the ways I was able to utilize them, and I still have a lot to mess around with, especially when I pick up the game again, which I found to be really cool. One of the only things I guess you can say is about the hordes that's negative, which I found they're very easy to get away from. Now, they can knock you off your bike, but I found it to be a very rare instance, so hopefully the next game they could do something, maybe enhance the zombies or something to make them more of a threat, especially when you're on your bike, just to make the game more intense. Now, I did appreciate the other small little details they put in this game too, such as having various decals from other game, or spray paints, whatever you want to call them, such as on Sam's bike from Uncharted. They had a Horizon Zero Dawn spray. They had a God of War spray. They even had the bike from Death Stranding with the little baby inside. So I found that to be really cool. The next thing is there's a little photo mode, which is not as detailed, as in-depth as other games, but also a nice addition to have, especially when you're taking pictures of snow-capped mountains or from various high locations like I like to do. There's also one other cool thing they had too, which is the game tracked the amount of days that went by in the game, so I found it to be really nice detail as well. Alright, now that I got all the other stuff out the way, now it's time to talk about the big chunk of the game, which is the gameplay and the story. Now, the gameplay feels very similar to The Last of Us. The gunplay feels very similar, even the melee combat feels very similar. The only thing I could say is sometimes the gunplay does feel a little stiff, so hopefully they could just make that smoother in the next game. And hopefully they could, like I said, improve the visuals or something to make the game more gory and feel more impactful, such as maybe blowing people's limbs off, which I know sounds disgusting, but it just makes the game feel more impactful, and it makes the combat feel more realistic. As far as the melee combat goes, it was okay. It was serviceable as well. It was a little bit worse than the gunplay. They could have done with making a like a dodge button. They do have a dodge button, but it's like a roll, so it kind of feels weird when you're in combat and all of a sudden you just start rolling everywhere like Dark Souls. So hopefully maybe the next game they can implement like an actual dodge button like The Last of Us 2 and have maybe like a double tap for like a dodge and then like a roll. This you can get away easier. And having that dodge button, not like a full-fledged roll button, would just make the combat feel smoother. And this will just improve the overall quality of the combat. Now, as far as the gadgets go, I feel like the gadgets are fine. It was cool that they have their own little categories. I do feel like they could have taken out and replaced some of the gadgets used because I feel like some of them do repeat or they're not as useful as others. But I do feel like in the next game they could definitely improve upon that, especially with the ability to maybe create your own gadgets. Like in Dead Rising 2, you're able to have combine like duct tape and spikes in a bat to create like a spike bat, or just different things like that, just to be able to create your own weapons. Maybe you can create your own gadgets, like creating your own explosives that do different things, just to add like a little nice RPG element to the game and keep the game fresh as you continue playing. Now, as for the story does have a bit of a slow start to it, especially during the first couple hours, which might drive people away from it. However, if you were to get through those couple hours and you're able to start exploring more of the world, exploring more of the characters, and seeing how their character arcs start to flow, and seeing how their character interactions influence our protagonist Deacon, and how his character grows, it really does make for a great experience. It's definitely one of the most underrated games I've played, especially an open world survival game like this is definitely one of the best PlayStation exclusives I played, and I'm really glad that I was able to experience this, and I really was glad that PS Now gave this out for PS Now subscribers. Now, I feel like they could have taken out some of the elements of the story or some of the things they have, such as going here and killing this person, going here retrieving this thing, and I feel like they could have taken those out and maybe limited them, and maybe put those into making other side missions or just other missions in general, or just fixing up some of the game. So they definitely could have taken some things out, and there was quite a few of those, which was quite annoying. But however, overall, the story near the end of the game did, especially towards the climax, ramping up to the end of the game, really did make up for it. So overall, I'm going to give this game a solid 8 out of 10. Like I said before, they just need to fix up some of the combat clunkiness, fix up some of the story missions to take out some of the repetitive missions, and just touch up on the game and maybe add a few more to the next game. Overall, I really recommend this game to anyone who wants to get into a nice open world survival game, especially when it feels like DayZ, when you're taking on all these big hordes of zombies. So I definitely recommend this game. So thank you guys for watching my review. This is like a really short and simple review. I didn't want to take up too much of your time. If you really want to get into it, of course, there's other reviews out there going to like 40 to 50 minute analysis of the game. But I just hope you guys enjoyed this little brief review of the game, and thank you guys for stopping by. So if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to slap that like button. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and hit the notification button to catch up on my recent uploads. Upload Tuesdays as always. Leave a comment down below if you'd like to dislike anything about the video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.